We had to like stop it because of the Zoom, but here we go. We're back. So touching on that stuff, do you have any like healthy eating habits? Do you believe in like fasting, like intermittent fasting? Like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on all that stuff?
So, okay, I'll jump into a few things there. So I'd say probably healthy eating habits. Sorry, I'm adjusting my camera there.
All good.
Healthy eating habits. So tips for healthy eating, I'd say, is to make sure that you're eating in the right order, number one. So I'll get into that. The next thing is make sure that you're planning your meals and even like your workouts and things like that, but planning your meals and what you're going to eat beforehand just to set yourself up for success. And then I'll touch on fasting too. So these are things that I do like every day, every week, all the time. It also helps me getting into more healthy eating because I've always been, I'd say like a healthy eater. I never like have been like a huge like junk food eater, but I definitely like consume processed foods. Like I used to be addicted to Oreos. So like it's not like I have always just been like super into healthy food and all this stuff, but it definitely using these processes. Sorry, my dog.
No, it's all good.
Oh, 1 second, I gotta grab him because there's a fire alarm.
No, you're all good. You're all.
Louis is a guest too.
He's
So as far as now I forgot, I said planning
the order.
the order you eat in. Okay, so number one, like I said before, you want to make sure you're having meat and vegetables, like protein and vegetables, not meat, but if you are a meat eater, meat, I am. So that's why I said, I think that, but protein and vegetables at every meal. And you want to make sure that you are starting your day with the proper foods. You want a savory meal because what you eat first. So breakfast is called breakfast because you're breaking a fast. Even if you don't practice intermittent fasting, your sleeping is essentially a form of a fast. You can either lengthen that or shorten it depending on if you fast or if you don't. But regardless, you're breaking some type of fast, even if it's a very small one. So the first thing you eat in the morning will dictate what you crave throughout the entire day. So you want to make sure that that's something that's going to set you up for success. That's going to be something savory and something that's full of protein. So that's why you want to stick more to like eggs, an omelet, something with greens. Even if you do a green juice, just make sure that it's primarily vegetables with only maybe like 80% vegetables, 20% fruit. So you throw in like celery, a bunch of different greens, and then maybe like a little bit of apple and lemon juice or something like that. It should not be something crazy sweet. That's going to set you up for success. Going off of that, you want to make sure that you're eating vegetables, anything with it like a veggie starter first. It's going to basically fill you up first and also will set your gut up for success. So your gut's going to be getting fiber, which will actually decrease your glucose spike later on, which is going to help you not to crave like sugary foods that might not be the best for you, anything that might have like fake. You're going to be full enough and your cravings are going to be very, very subdued. And then so you want to eat vegetables, anything, then protein, and then anything that's either sweet or like a carb. So even if you're having like sweet potatoes or like potatoes or even like starchy vegetables, even like sometimes like squash or something like that. I'm a very big spaghetti squash girl, so I'll throw that in there. But you want to have that last, even if it's like fruit, like even if you're having like fruit as dessert, it's still super healthy for you, but you just want to have it last since it's a little more sugary. So all of those things will actually help you to, number one, be full, set yourself up for success so that you're not craving bad things later. And then also it will like limit your glucose spike, which has a lot of health benefits to it, but it also, again, will reduce cravings for say like sugary things or things that might not necessarily be the best for your body. Okay. And then the pre-planning, I'd say this may like be the most important when you're starting to eat healthy or kind of implementing any habit change, but specifically eating healthy. So I'll kind of walk through different ways that you can do this. So one of my favorite ways to do that is I will on Sundays, I will either on my iPad, in a notebook, in a food log, anything that works for you specifically, in a journal, however it works best for you. I will literally write out my breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks for every single day of the week. Even if you don't do it exactly, this just helps you know what you need to get from your grocery store. So this is number one, it also helps you save money on healthy food too, because you're not getting too much or too little, you're getting exactly what you need. So I'll plan out all of my meals. Then I'll go to a grocery store and make sure that I'm getting just of what I got. And then I'll come home and I'll either meal prep a little bit. I do it just because sometimes I get busy at work. Meal prepping is another way to plan because you have things that are healthy available in your fridge. And this also with planning out your meals prior, you're not getting a lot of junk just because you see it or just because like you're hungry in the grocery store and you're like, oh, okay, this looks really good. I'm going to throw it in the cart. And then it's in your fridge and you see it in your fridge. So then you eat it. This way you would kind of only have what you planned out. So you're forced to only eat the things that you pre-planned or you prepped. It's kind of the best way that I've found to like limit the foods that aren't great, but also stock up on the foods that are really good. Then going off of that, like if that I think that that's kind of the best way to get into it. And then as you get more accustomed to it, you can like loosely plan or just plan like certain meals and get the certain ingredients and things like that. But I'd say that's a huge way to get a little more, just a little more structure around it. It helps you to be disciplined and kind of doesn't give you room for failure. And then intermittent fasting. So when I first got into the health and wellness space and heard about intermittent fasting, I thought it was a way to limit food consumption. So essentially you're not eating for as long, you want to limit your calories and you're trying to eat less essentially. What I've since found is that while that may be true in some instances, the benefits of fasting, you don't have to cut down your food necessarily, but fasting has a huge health benefit to it. So it's really, really good for the brain. This is because when you fast, your body has to work off of ketones rather than glucose. So what that means is when you eat food, your body creates it's glucose essentially, which is what your body uses as energy. When your glucose is depleted, so you went for a walk after you ate, or you did a workout, or your body's used it. So that's kind of when fasting comes in. Your body will use ketones, which come from fats or fatty acids, things like that. Your body can also pull it from your body's internal fat stores. And so that actually is one way that you can also burn fat, is intermittent fasting, and you can still be consuming your normal number of calories, the same amount of food. But your body will pull from that and burn and use ketones as energy. Okay. So that's called metabolic adaptability, metabolic flexibility. And that's actually really important. So we want to be able to be metabolically flexible. And this also helps to kind of get rid of insulin resistance, which is it's really common in America today. It happens from processed foods, from eating too much, from eating really consistently and not fasting. So that's why I fast. There's benefits to it. It helps with increased energy. It boosts your mood. You decrease your risk for a lot of diseases like chronic diseases, heart disease, different cancers, things like that. Yeah. So it's super, super helpful for a lot of different ways. And on top of it, there are some benefits to it as far as losing fat and things like that as well. So I've practiced intermittent fasting now for probably a year or so. And again, like I try and have balance as much as possible. So on a weekend, if I'm going out with friends and I want to have like a glass of wine with them or something like that, I'll do it every once in a while, but the majority of the time I fast. Or even say so Memorial Day was a couple of weekends back. I had a bunch of friends out at my parents' lake house. We were all sitting around the campfire and we were eating a little bit later. And so I ate what would typically be like my late lunch, early dinner. I ate that later. So how I fast, because I work out in the mornings, I like to make sure I'm fueling with protein after. I kind of eat like I said, a late lunch, early dinner, and I kind of skip dinner-ish. So I'll have breakfast, kind of a mid-morning, early afternoon snack. Then I'll have lunch. And then if I'm still hungry, I'll have another like snack dish, which is typically like fruit, or like I'll make a salad or something like that.
Okay.
But I try to do anywhere from a 16-hour to a 20-hour fast every night. And sometimes it differs. So like today I stopped, like, and it's also, it has to do with like sugar and things too. So I started fasting around like 2, and then tomorrow morning I have an earlier workout to get online for work. So I'll probably eat again around 8. So that's going to end up being around ish like an 18-hour fast. What's typically, and the thing is, your body will get used to it. So I don't even get hungry. Like I haven't eaten since 2, and I'm still full. Like I
Okay.
feel, yeah. So, but your body will kind of feel different at first. So how they recommend to kind of wean yourself onto fasting is start in hour increments. So if you typically eat breakfast at 8 a.m., start eating breakfast at 9 a.m. for like a week or 2 weeks until you get used to that. Then eat breakfast at 10 a.m. Because some people like to they'll fast until noon, eat lunch, eat a snack, and then eat dinner, and then be done. And then do the same thing. I kind of like reverse it just because, like I said, I work out in the morning, and I try to just make sure I'm like refueling. But like my mom's has been getting into intermittent fasting, and she will skip breakfast. So
Okay.
that's like the way that she does it. But that's the way to kind of do it, is to just do it by hour increments until your body gets used to it. And kind of with everything that I'm like suggesting and talking about, your body's going to need time to get used to it. Anything that's a healthy habit is not going to necessarily be a short-term fix. It's going to be more long-term. It's going to take a while to build the habits, but once you do, they're going to be, number one, around for a while, and 2, you're going to feel a lot better. You're definitely going to look a lot better because you're going to be doing things that are good for you, and your body's going to know that. And it's going to make, like I said, like your longevity is going to increase too. You're decreasing your risk for diseases. You're increasing all the positive things in your body. You're going to be consuming antioxidants. Like even with fasting, you're going to be doing things that are good for your brain. You're going to be metabolically flexible. So while it may not, some of the results might not show right away, it's worth the long haul. It's going to take a little while, and it is worth putting in the time and energy to make it happen.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because I think right now it's such like a trend to do like abs in 2 weeks, and like realistic that you cannot do that. Like,
Right.
and like I think it leads
Or
also.
if you do, it may look good on the outside, but the inside isn't good. And that's something that, I've come to realize in my wellness journey too. Things that are easy fixes, or like some things that are able to happen really fast, they're not sustainable. And sometimes healthy and the things that are the best for our health aren't necessarily the quick fixes or the things that will give you abs in 2 weeks. And sometimes, you know what, like some people are not meant for their abs to be shown. It's just how their bodies are made. So it depends. And I think that it's more about being healthy and doing things that promote health and wellness, and honestly, like mental health long term. A lot of times when you are super lean and you have crazy abs, or you're doing these quick fixes, or like trying to get a quote unquote summer body, your mental health is going to suffer. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be restricting. You're going to be a little more negative. Whereas when you think about things as you're adding them into your life, and you're doing these things to give yourself, to give back to your body, and to give yourself a lot more benefits and happiness and joy and health, that's when real change happens, because it's 360. You're going to be getting a mental, emotional, and physical approach to all of it, and you're going to see the benefits through all of that, rather than just physical, which really doesn't matter all that much.
I absolutely love what you said. And like, I think like once everyone like does like the crash diets, or like the 2-week type of thing, like it causes like eating disorder and like eating disorders and like eating like problems, like for most people. And like with my personal experience, like in sports and stuff, like dealing with like stuff like that, it's just like in the long run, like it's not worth it at all. Like I look back at like pictures, and I was like, I thought I was so like fat or whatever. And I really like was so underweight to the point where it was like so unhealthy.
I know. I agree with you. I think that unfortunately a lot of girls our age have been through that, and older and younger. And I think that even just us sitting here having that conversation is important to kind of stifle that and get it reversed and on a different track. And to have people, especially women, young women, doing things because it's healthy and not necessarily to look a certain way is going to be important. And I also want to say there's two sides to that too. I think that you don't obviously want to take it to one end or the other. You do want to still work out. You do still want to eat healthy. And I think it's also important to note that like it's okay to want to look your best, but the smallest version of yourself may not be the best version of yourself. So it's just not, I think that sometimes is what comes into play. A lot of people think that they need to be the smallest version of themselves to be happy. And I think that it's more of a mental journey when it comes to that. And then you want to add in all these other pieces that promote health. And I personally think that when you are doing things for you and that make you better, that's when you look your best, because that's when you feel your best and that comes through and you exude that. Nobody wants to be around a super skinny person who's super irritable all the time and no fun to be around. You know what I mean? You want to be around somebody who loves themselves and wants to give that love to others. So
I love that. Everything you just said. I really, really appreciate you saying that, especially like, I know like I have little cousins that will definitely watch this too. And like, I'm sure they're getting older. And so it's like, I didn't have like people saying this to me growing up. Like my mom would say it, but it's like when you're growing up and when you're out the other. So it's kind of just
right.
really nice. So I'm like, so glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah. And also because I just noticed that I said, nobody wants to see around someone who's super skinny and negative. Some people are naturally super skinny, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people who, I just mean the best version of your body, and just like, you don't need to be like I said, the smallest version of you. There's nothing wrong with being skinny either. I just want to make that note too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. Like someone who's like starving themselves and like, or is not eating the correct way. And
right. And it's taking them over, and that's why they become negative and things like that. That's what I was referencing.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, you don't even have a bad bone in your body. No, don't even. To kind of like shift gears. I know you have allergies, and we kind of talked about it on the podcast a little bit. But I'm traveling coming up in like a week or two, and I'm like struggling because I don't know how I'm going to do like gluten-free, dairy-free, especially like when traveling. And I didn't know if you have any tips. Like I'll be going on like a 10-hour plane ride, and like I probably can't eat any of the stuff they give. And like, I can't bring like, I mean, I guess I could bring like a salad, which I probably like will do. But like, I can't really bring like liquids and stuff, and anything.
Right. Okay. So what I would say to do is, I'm pretty sure, so you can do like overnight oats. I'm pretty sure they allow those to go through security. I'm like 99% sure, because I brought them before and I'm pretty sure I got them through. I also saw like another influencer that I follow. I'm pretty sure she recommended that, and that's why I did it, because she has some dietary restrictions as well. There are some good snacks that I kind of always bring with me when traveling. So the brands are Made Good, Enjoy Life, Siete Foods is really good. Simple Mills is also good, and they like they're healthier, they're cleaner ingredients. For people with nut allergies, they do use almond flour in some things, so be careful. Like I can't eat all of their products, but they do have good ones for those that don't have that restriction. Also, things that I do a lot, I'll bring like, you could literally bring like fruit, like an apple, throw some blueberries in like a bag and bring them, or even like, a container. Hard boiled eggs too. Like if you could just have to like eat those earlier to like keep them cold and everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other good snacks. I feel like those are probably the big ones that I do for longer trips and things like that. Also, I mean, really, you could even bring like an avocado. If you just bring an avocado and even like a little bag of just like sea salt to like sprinkle on it, or like a gluten-free bagel, and then bring your avocado, and then like just like a plastic knife or whatever, find one at I'm sure that they would have that, and you can make that, you know what I mean? Make like even just a little avocado, and it's not going to be toasted or anything, but it'll still at least like keep you satiated and it's healthy. I'm trying to think. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I was thinking like when we get to like locations, since we're like kind of jumping around, like I told my parents, like I could go to like literally a market, like there's markets everywhere, and like just like get like a mango or something, and like have that to like snack on, or like and like I've been like looking up like restaurants that have like options and stuff, because like realistically I mean, I'm not going to get like meals that are every single time, like cater to my like my dietary restrictions. So I have to like kind of like figure out myself, but there are resources everywhere pretty much now.
For sure. And I think because so many their restrictions are becoming so much more common, even this is not necessarily like a restriction, but just like a dietary, like some people just they want to be vegan, they want to be gluten free for their own personal reasons. So a lot of restaurants and things now are starting to accommodate that, even in like other countries and things like that too. So I think just like speaking up and asking about it is something is helpful too. And then obviously, I don't know, are you staying in like a hotel or Airbnb? Like, is there going to be it's like a stove? Can you cook or?
I think maybe one of the hotels will have it, and I'm like excited for that, so I can like
Yeah.
everything.
And honestly, what you can do there is just prep a bunch of stuff too. That
Yes.
might not like even if you do like get a gluten-free pasta from a market or something like that that you can like kind of like stock up on
Right.
and get a bunch of stuff. But
Yeah.
that might be
That's awesome. Okay. I love that. I definitely will do all that. And I wrote down all like the snacks. So I will definitely be purchasing
you
those.
you also too could if you wanted to, and this is something that I would probably do just because I get so nervous about my allergies and everything. But I would probably bring like I would check a bag with like even just like soups with some of like the like milks that I can have with like boxes of different things, like literally just have a food check on. Or not check on, like just a check bag
Yeah.
of the different foods that I could like potentially throw into a suitcase and like you're essentially just shipping it there with you so that you have an option just in case you need it. And like this would be like obviously non-perishable foods, but that you could pack and bring with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think like, I hope I can bring over like protein powder. Cause like the one you said,
Yeah.
Ritual, I believe, right? In the podcast.
Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah. I love it.
And I also recently, it's a brand that reached out to me, but I actually am like loving their products. It's called Gainful. So they do personalized protein.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like their hydration. So they do like an electrolyte powder that you can like put in your water and you can have it after workouts or just to like replenish. It also has a little bit of caffeine in it. So I've been loving that lately, but their protein powder tastes so good too. And they do something pretty cool. So you take a quiz about like how active you are, like what your goals are, and then they will give you they suggest their products for you. So like I took the quiz, I made my mom do it too, and she got totally different answers and like totally different products than what I got, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And I actually got like a bunch of different ones because I feel like I'm just all over the place with all my like fitness and goals. But it's pretty cool, and it tastes really good too. And what they do that's kind of cool is they give you unflavored protein powder. And then they give you like flavor little packets. So like it's kind of nice. So instead of having like 4 big tubs of like 4 different flavors, you have the one or the 2 different little bags, and then you have these different flavor packets. So you're not like only using like certain things. So like I have vanilla, cookies and cream, cinnamon toast crunch, and then they have like strawberries and cream. They have a bunch of different ones too, like chocolate peanut butter. They have a bunch of different ones. But this way, like I'm still taking that one personalized protein, and then only like I can pick which flavor for different, like, which is kind of nice instead of like getting one flavor and having to go through it. And it might not necessarily be what you're craving. So it's kind of cool, but
I'll definitely check that out for sure. And then how do you deal with like insecurities? I don't know if you have any, like, I don't know.
I think social media, like everybody's gonna have them. I actually was having this conversation the other day. Something that I feel like so I've with insecurities, I've never had I've had insecurities, but I've never had insecurities to the point that they've made me like jealous of another person. They've always made me, I feel like, more like I want to change this about myself or better this about myself or look this certain way. I've never really acted out on them. It's more so I've like internalized them and wanting to change myself, which could be construed or viewed as good or bad because obviously there you don't always need to change yourself. But I've never, I feel like, acted out negatively towards others. And I feel like that's something that's common. Some people get insecure and they react negatively to people, which I think is also harmful because then it makes that person insecure and then perpetuates a really long cycle. But I'd say, so I kind of was saying like I'm happy in a way that I've never like treated someone badly because of insecurities, but I do go through them, and I think that um it's something that like I feel like girls and guys in this day and age are gonna go through it. It's gonna happen just because I read about this in another book the other day. But if you think about how times have changed, and not just like social media where you can like constantly look at the best and the brightest and the prettiest and the most successful, but also if you think about it this way, before social media, before phones, before even like towns could be traveled back and forth to one another, like we're going like way back, you were only compared to like say the people in like your small vicinity, potentially your street, potentially your school, potentially your town, and that was it. So you never really worried about much because it was a very small sample size of who you were being compared to. Then it started to grow and grow and grow, and now social media is the biggest of everything. So you are literally being compared to somebody that could be thousands and thousands of miles away across the world, that will literally have no influence on your life, that will not matter, that doesn't change anything about you, and you're comparing yourself to them just because you can see them. And again, you're only getting their biggest and brightest moments.
Right. Yeah. It's a highlight.
So yeah, and that's something that's kind of crazy, that's changed. When things were only compared to a small circle, it was kind of diluted a little bit.
Mhm.
And even if like say you were comparing yourself to somebody else, it kind of vanished a little bit because there wasn't as many people to compare to. There weren't as many standards. There were
Yeah.
only this one and that one. Whereas now it's like everybody needs, like, some people like feel like they need to be super skinny, but then you also want to have like a big button boobs. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, how? Because that's not how things work. Because then you want a flat stomach, but then I want to be really tall, but then I want to be short. And then
Yeah.
even for there's so many different things. And so I think that that's something that's become really, really difficult. And I've struggled with it because I feel like there are 12 different bodies that are the ideal body. And then you forget that like just being able to have a body is super, super important and
Yeah.
super, super lucky. And we should be so grateful for that. And how I started to deal with that, and to be quite honest, I don't get super insecure anymore. And I'd say that probably has changed within the past, like, it's like recent. It's newer. And it's probably because I take time to practice gratitude. And I also sometimes in like meditations or journals, and like meditating and journaling is how I like really connect with myself. Um, Sometimes my journal entries will be really raw and rough, and I still go through it and go through phases. But in meditations, I sometimes will like think through all my senses, all the different parts of my body, all the like literally every inch of my body. And even like sometimes, and I was guided through this, it's not like I thought this the first time, but I'll literally go through and touch every single part of my body, like literally every square inch, and just think about like how lucky I am to have each of that. And then like the gratitude aspect of it, something that like our mind will constantly think, if we think about what we don't have, it'll constantly become negative and we'll want to change it. If we think about all the things that we do have and that make us special and that go beyond like insecurities and things like that, those things become like hyper to present. So instead of like being like, oh, I wish I didn't have this like little stomach pouch or whatever,
Yeah.
you can say like, well, I love it because it's me. And
Yeah.
I love me because I'm special and I'm awesome and nobody else is me. And it's my body and I'm going to treat it well. And I might not love my stomach, but I love how, like, I love the color of my eyes in the sun, or I love this or that or that. Another thing that's really like that has helped me is to not compare somebody's outside, like your insides with somebody else's outsides. We will never be able to know what another person is feeling. You will never be able to know what somebody else is thinking. And while they might give you a glimpse every once in a while, number one, you don't know if it's necessarily true. And number two, you don't know if it's the full story and how often they feel like that and all these different things. So you can't compare somebody's outsides to your insides. And that's difficult to kind of process. So that but I think that that's important to note, because there can be some things about somebody and you can be like a super headstrong person, have all these beautiful qualities, but because you see a picture, it can bring you down. That's difficult. But you can't compare that because it's two completely different things. And then one other thing is just to remind yourself, and it's something that I remind myself a lot, that like, and I'm kind of talking about like body insecurity, just because I feel like that's like really common. I don't know, I could talk about other things too, but with your body, I think that people forget that your body is you. It's not separate. It's not a different entity. It's not, an attachment of you. It is you. You are your body, and it does so many things for you. And it's not just like something you look at or something to tear down or something to see in the mirror. Like, it's physically you.
Yeah.
It's the first time I really like thought of it that way, it just made such a difference. Like, why would I talk down on myself? You know what I mean? When I talk about certain parts this way, or I compare that to somebody else, I'm doing myself a disservice, because it's part of me. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like it's like my dog here that I can like joke with
Right.
and or like say something about, or like analyze or judge. Like, it's part of me. Like, you're not gonna judge, I don't know, like it really, that like really made a difference for me. And then, so I would say like, but overall, when I'm having like a really bad day with insecurities or anything like that, journaling, meditating, and affirmations have made the biggest difference. Like, without a doubt, they've helped me with my journey to get to a point where I, even on a bad day, like fully love myself. I can look in the mirror and be like, oh, I don't love this, I don't love that, but I'm working on it. And I know that I can go do, I still love myself despite feeling like this. So those things have definitely gotten me to that point. And again, something that it's actually my phone background that I just want to end with on that is my phone background literally says, no one is you, and that's your superpower. And I think that like, I love it, because it's so true, and it applies to every single person, and every single person can make that work for them, because there's only one of everybody, and everybody has something so unique and special and incredible to offer that no one else has, because only you are you. And I think that that's just like the most important message that you can take away from any aspect of that.
I love that. I mean, like, and I also think about like, you wouldn't say that to like your younger self. Like, you wouldn't call your younger self fat, and like, you just wouldn't say that to your like little.
Right. Like, what would you say to your younger self? Or even like, if you have like a little neighbor next door and she comes over and she's like 5 years old and is saying like she doesn't look good or doesn't feel good, or like somebody was making fun of her, you would console her and help her, and you would talk to her to make her feel better, but also to be honest with her, because in reality, nobody really cares about that. And something else that I've realized, that I can't believe I didn't mention this, because I'm like, this is something I tell my friends, I tell my family, I tell everybody about this. If someone else makes you feel bad about yourself in some way and makes you feel insecure for whatever reason, whether that is a friend, whether that is a bully, whether that is a guy or girl or whatever, that is not someone you want in your life. That is not somebody who is going to be a part of your life, because if they were, they would want you to be the best version of yourself. And the best version of yourself is somebody who feels good in their own skin. If somebody comes into your life that does not add to it, you erase them. They're out of your life. And I think that, and it's really hard, because taking people out of your life can be really difficult and it can get lonely, but it makes room for the people that are good. And so if anybody ever makes you feel insecure for whatever reason that is, you have to get them out of your life. You have to remove them. And it's probably going to be hard, or in some cases it might not be, but it is always, always, always worth it. Because if they don't want you as you, they don't deserve you.
I love that. Yeah. And if they're not going to love you like for who you are and like truly who you are, then it's just get them out. And yeah, like you said, make space for those who want to be there. I love that.
Exactly.